So I've got some crazy breaking news to tell you guys all about. This just in, police immediately disrupting rail blockades actually works. Who would have thought it? It's with great relief that we see that there are really no blockades happening across Canada right now after there were attempts to bring solidarity blockades to a whole bunch of rail lines to strand people's commutes after the OPP finally went in after almost 3 weeks and disrupted those Belleville, Ontario via rail line blockades. There was a lot of hand-wringing, a lot of discussion over whose authority is it, who can do what, what's appropriate. Justin Trudeau was using phrases like dialogue and coming together to meet, to talk about this and that. We heard it from many other cabinet ministers. I thought, okay, if you want to talk about these broader issues, fine. Meanwhile, you've got people on rail lines, some of whom may have been tampering with those rail lines. Get them off the rail lines. It's illegal. No one else would be allowed to stick around and do that for so long. But we had the provinces and the feds arguing back and forth about whose responsibility it was. Justin Trudeau saying, we do not tell the police what to do. Politicians can't do that. And then he had a press conference telling the police, okay, guys, you can move in now. And you know what? Here's the thing. Though they did move in. The OPP moved in at Belleville, and there was no violence. Nobody got hurt. There were several people arrested. Quite frankly, I think they got off quite easily because one should not be allowed to do what they did for so long and not suffer legal consequences. Here's the thing. A lot of activists, particularly those sort of far left social justice warrior climate activists who wanted to affix themselves to all of this and kind of pretend that they were also First Nations activists, they went to do a whole bunch of shutdowns in British Columbia, and in downtown Toronto they tried to blockade the commutes coming out of Toronto one afternoon rush hour. And they were up on those rail lines for, 15 minutes. The police came on force. They took them off the rail lines right away. It was really only a 1 hour disruption for people's commutes, and then they got the trains moving again. There you go. You know, we had a number of voices come forward to say what needs to happen, who needs to do this and that. Erin O'Toole stepped forward, Conservative leadership candidate, and he proposed this sort of bringing in a law about critical infrastructure and you can't block the, okay, whatever, fine, maybe that law is helpful, but basically it's still illegal to have done all of this from the get-go. And we saw that when police finally did decide to enforce the law, well, they just did it. And then people got off the lines, the GO trains in the Greater Toronto area got back to service, and now we have the Via Rail lines more or less operational again, although we've learned that it's going to take several weeks to get all of those backed up trains back into, I guess, the logistics system so they can get their grain shipments and so forth out and about. But what a lesson. What a teachable moment. Pretty crazy. I thought the idea that this would somehow come to blows and that everybody would be, severely harmed or even killed, it was really almost kind of offensive, both to the police, that this is the way they conduct themselves and they would do this, and also to assume that the activists were so violent that basically they wanted to get into this situation. Now, when you see these people who have been running in front of trains and then throwing pallets down in front of the trains, that's another story. And I think if these people are going to go without facing legal consequences to do something that, let's be honest, is domestic terrorism, we got another thing coming. But when it comes to the basic blockading of the GO trains, the Via Rail lines, there, they get on the tracks, 5 minutes later, cops come, they take them off. It's that simple. We always had the resources for it. We always had the correct laws in place. What needed to happen was people needed to act. And next time they do it, 5 minutes after it starts, the police should act.